In the quiet American town of Maple Ridge, where autumn leaves drifted across narrow streets and porch lights flickered early in the evening, life moved at a slow and familiar pace. Families who had lived there for generations waved to each other from driveways, children played basketball in cracked cul-de-sacs, and the town's modest bar, Carter's Place, served as the heartbeat of local conversation. It was the kind of place where regulars felt ownership of the wooden stools, where the scent of old cedar mixed with warm food, and where stories seemed to float in the air longer than the music from the jukebox. Inside this bar worked Emma Brooks, a 29-year-old waitress with weary eyes softened by kindness. She had spent most of her life in Maple Ridge and had learned to carry heavy burdens with quiet grace. Her mother's Alzheimer's had progressed faster than doctors expected, and Emma now found herself balancing double shifts, bills that never seemed to shrink, and the aching fear of losing her mother piece by piece. Still, she arrived every day with a warm smile, offering it even when she didn't have much left to give. One windy Wednesday evening, as the door of the bar chimed softly, a man walked in wearing a faded gray hoodie and jeans that looked worn from more than just time. He moved quietly, like he was trying not to disturb the air around him, and chose a bar stool in the dimmest corner. Emma approached him with her practiced smile, though she noticed the sadness lingering in his eyes. "What can I get you tonight?" she asked in a gentle tone. He kept his gaze low as he answered, "Just a burger. And water." His voice carried a heaviness that tugged at something inside her, but she didn't pry. People came into the bar for their own reasons. Some came for company, some for comfort, and others because they needed a place to set down their sadness even if only for an hour. She nodded and took his order, unaware that this simple exchange would begin a story far more complicated than it appeared. The man's name, she would soon learn, was Luke. He returned the next evening and every evening that followed. Always wearing the same hoodie, always sitting at the same stool, always ordering the cheapest meal he could find. Sometimes he nursed a glass of water for an entire hour, staring at the old photographs that lined the walls of the bar. One photograph in particular caught his attention, a young couple smiling proudly in front of Carter's Place on the day it opened. Emma often noticed him staring at that picture. One night, she leaned over the counter and said, "That's the original owner, Mr. Carter. He opened this bar almost 60 years ago. A lot of people around here loved him." Luke's eyes softened. "Yeah," he murmured. "I know." There was something in his tone that made her pause. It wasn't the simple recognition of a historical figure. There was memory in his voice, and sorrow wrapped around it. As the nights passed, Emma found herself drawn to Luke's quietness. He listened more than he spoke, but when he did speak, there was depth behind his words, as if they had to travel through layers of grief before reaching the surface. On a slow evening when the bar had only a few customers and the air hummed with low conversation, Emma found him staring into his water like he was searching for something he had lost. "You doing all right tonight?" she asked softly. He hesitated before answering. "I haven't been sleeping much." "Stress?" she asked. He shook his head gently. "Family." She understood that too well. "Family can hurt you without meaning to," she said. "Or sometimes they don't know how to be there for you. Or you don't know how to be there for them." He lifted his gaze, and for the first time since she met him, she saw a flicker of raw pain cross his expression. "Yeah," he whispered. "Something like that." Emma hesitated, then shared, "My mom has Alzheimer's. Some days she wakes up and doesn't even know who I am. I take double shifts so I can keep her in a decent care home. Some days I feel like I'm losing her a little more." Luke swallowed hard. Her honesty seemed to break something fragile inside him. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "It's okay," she replied with a small smile. "We all carry something heavy. It's easier when we don't have to hide it." But Luke continued to hide his burden. Not out of deception, she would later learn, but out of guilt so deep it had changed the shape of his life. He kept coming back to Carter's Place night after night, slipping more into Emma's routine and into the quiet comfort she unknowingly offered him. He asked for nothing but a cheap meal and water. When he attempted to pay with crumpled bills he dug from his pocket, Emma sometimes covered the remainder without telling him. She saw a man who had lost something important, though she couldn't name what it was. But Terry, the bar's manager, had a knack for assuming the worst. He watched Luke with a suspicious glare every night. "Probably another broke drifter," Terry would mutter. "Doesn't look like he's got $2 to rub together. Don't waste time offering dessert." Emma always challenged him gently. "Everyone deserves kindness." Terry scoffed. "Kindness doesn't pay bills." But Emma didn't care. Something in Luke's eyes reminded her of her mother on bad days, blank but full of unspoken stories. One night, as the bar quieted down and the last of the customers left, Luke remained behind, staring at the photo of the young couple. Emma approached him slowly. "You always look at that one," she said softly. He nodded. "It's important to me." "How so?" she asked, her voice curious but careful. He breathed deeply, his hands trembling slightly. "Because that man, the owner, was my father." The words fell softly but hit the room with the weight of a crash. Emma froze, staring at him. Luke kept his gaze fixed on the photograph. His name was Daniel Carter. He poured every drop of himself into this place. And I failed him. Emma stepped closer, listening without a word. "When my mom died," he continued, "my dad fell apart. I didn't know how to help him. I was grieving too. So I threw myself into work, building businesses, investing, traveling across the country. I told myself I was doing it for the future. But really, I was running from everything I didn't want to face." His voice cracked. "Then Dad's health got worse. Terry called me. Friends called me. They all told me to come back. But I always said I was too busy. I kept saying, next week, next month. I kept pushing off the one thing I needed to do most." He swallowed hard as tears filled his eyes. "I waited too long. He died alone in the back office of this bar. Alone. And I never got to tell him I was sorry." Emma felt her heart crumble. She whispered, "Luke." He shook his head. "That's not even the worst part. When he died, I inherited everything he built. The bar, the land, the properties, and my investments turned into millions. I became richer than I ever imagined. And I hated every dollar of it." His voice shook with shame. "So I came back here with nothing but a hoodie and an old truck. I needed to remember what this place felt like. I needed to punish myself. I wanted to know if people saw me, not the money, not the name, just me." He looked at her with eyes full of grief. "And you were the only one who treated me like I mattered." Emma felt tears rise in her eyes. She placed a gentle hand over his. "Luke, you didn't abandon him on purpose. Grief makes people run in strange directions. It makes us afraid of facing the truth." He whispered, "I don't know how to fix what I broke." She looked at the photograph again, the young couple smiling with hope. Maybe the way to fix it is to stop hiding. For the first time, Luke seemed to consider that possibility. But he didn't return to the bar the next night. Nor the night after. Emma checked the door every time she heard it open. Her heart grew heavier each day he didn't appear. She didn't know whether he was gone for good or dealing with the weight of everything he had confessed. She just hoped he was okay. On the third day, Terry walked into the bar holding a sheet of paper with a furious expression. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "Now the owner decides to get involved. Sends instructions by email like he's royalty." Emma paused. "Owner?" "Yeah," Terry grumbled. "He wants a meeting tomorrow morning. Says it's important." Something inside Emma stirred, a feeling that the timing wasn't a coincidence. The next morning, the staff gathered inside the bar before it opened. Chairs were lined in a messy semicircle, the jukebox sat silent, and the early sunlight created long shadows across the wooden floor. Emma sat quietly, her hands twisting nervously. Then the door swung open. Luke walked in, clean-shaven, wearing a crisp shirt, jeans that actually fit, and a confidence that came not from wealth but from finally facing the truth. The room fell silent. Terry nearly dropped his clipboard. Luke stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Morning. My name is Luke Carter, and I'm the owner of Carter's Place." A ripple of shock passed through the staff. Emma felt her breath catch. Luke glanced at her with a soft, apologetic expression, like he hoped she would understand why he had hidden for so long. "I know I should have told you all sooner," he continued. "But I wasn't ready to face this place. Or myself. I came back to understand where things went wrong, not in the bar, but in me." Terry stood stiffly. "So you've been pretending to be broke? Why?" Luke took a steady breath. "Because I didn't feel like I deserved what I inherited. My dad built this place with his hands. And I wasn't there for him when he needed me most. I felt like everything I owned came from abandoning him." He looked around at each staff member. "But I found something here I didn't expect. I found honesty. I found kindness. And I found someone who reminded me that people deserve second chances." His gaze returned to Emma, and his voice softened. "You helped me see that hiding wasn't healing. And I'm ready to make things right." Emma felt tears gather, but she held his gaze with warmth and understanding. Luke continued, "I want to rebuild Carter's Place, not just the building, but the heart of it. And I want Emma to help me do that." Emma gasped. "Me?" He nodded. "Yes. You saw me when I felt invisible. You treated customers with compassion even when you were struggling yourself. You brought humanity back into this place. I want you as co-manager, with full pay and flexible hours so you can care for your mom." Emma covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "Luke, thank you." He smiled at her gently. "No, thank you." After the meeting ended, the staff slowly drifted out, whispering about the revelation. Emma stayed behind, walking to the photo Luke had always stared at, the young couple standing proudly in front of the bar. She touched the edge of the frame, imagining all the years of memories it held. Luke walked up beside her, staring at the picture with quiet reverence. "He loved this place more than anything," he said. "I want to honor him. I want to do better." Emma looked at him with soft, steady certainty. "You already are." Luke's tears shimmered but didn't fall. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because his guilt disappeared, but because he finally let someone else carry a piece of it with him. Emma placed her hand in his. "You don't have to fix everything alone." He squeezed her hand gently, feeling that truth settle deep inside him. From that day forward, Carter's Place changed. It wasn't just a bar anymore, it was a place where healing happened. A place where second chances were given. A place where a millionaire rediscovered not wealth but purpose. And where a waitress, burdened by her own struggles, found hope in the last place she expected. Luke and Emma worked side by side, rebuilding the bar with compassion at its core. Customers felt the difference immediately. The warmth, the honesty, the kindness that spread from Emma's heart and Luke's renewed resolve. And little by little, both of them learned that forgiveness wasn't about rewriting the past, it was about choosing to walk forward, even with scars. In time, Luke visited his father's grave with flowers in hand and whispered that he was trying. That he was learning. That he was finally home. And Emma, after long days at work, visited her mother with stories of the bar, telling her about the man who taught her that even broken people can learn to love again, through truth, through redemption, and through the simple, powerful act of being seen. Their lives intertwined not through romance first, but through healing. Through standing together in the quiet moments when life felt too heavy. Through the shared understanding that wounds heal slowly, but they heal better when someone stands beside you. And sometimes, the honesty of one brave heart is enough to change the course of another's life forever.